Hello everybody, welcome to video 8 of our series. In today's uppercase video, we are going to learn 6 uppercase letters, the letters U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Let's go ahead and start with warm-ups. As usual, you guys know I like to go with the ripples first, and then the waves, and then some hills, some mountains. These are obviously just little nicknames that I've made for the types of warm-ups that you definitely want to do before you get started. Now we're going to do some larger waves, and see how it's not connecting. This is why it's really good to do some warm-ups every time. Okay, now that we're done with warm-ups, let's go ahead and start with the first letter, uppercase U. The uppercase U starts halfway between the midline and the top line, curves up, kind of like an overhand stroke, down to the bottom, come back up and down. Now that's probably not the smoothest line I've drawn, but that's better. Okay, for these, you don't want the distance between the legs too close together. You don't want them too wide apart either. You just want something that's balanced. And notice how this part is definitely more curved, and then this leg over here is more straight. So try to maintain that. What I don't want to see, guys, is too big of a distance, like between there and there, right? You want to try to keep it tight if you can. How are you guys doing? This is a lot like the lowercase version too, so certainly, just like you've seen in my 2 previous videos, if you want to practice these letters with their lowercase partners, why not? Okay, the letter V looks very similar, except there's no stem on the right side. Again, come up, like so. If you wanted to create more of a loop, that's fine too. You could do that for the U as well. You know, maybe something like this. That's also very elegant. It's up to you. Let's try a couple more. Maybe one with the little hook, one that's got a little simpler piece to it. And again, it does look a lot like the lowercase version, so you can practice them together if you prefer. There's the V. In terms of something that's great for signatures or something like that, you could make them where it's pointy. Again, you know, I wouldn't say that this is standard cursive, but beautiful nonetheless if you want to do that for your own signature. Okay, after the letter V is W. I'm going to show you some variations, but generally this is how we learn it. I try not to keep a gap just like I did there, so let me try again. Okay, maybe something like that. What you want to see is that the middle little piece there is lower than the ones on the sides. I have seen people do them where it just touches the midline, and that's okay too. Okay, again, just kind of pick whichever one you guys like. Let's try a few more. There's one that stops at the midline. If you wanted to extend up, that's okay too. Generally, if you're going to extend it further, the only thing I don't want is just for the middle line to go above the others, you know, something like that. You definitely don't want it higher than the other pieces. Okay, one more time. Now, in terms of something that's more artistic and something like this V up here, people have something very similar for a W, you know, maybe something like that. Beautiful if you wanted to write, you know, welcome or something like that. Right? But again, I wouldn't say that this is standard cursive. So let's go to the next one. Uppercase X. I actually really like this letter because you have this very curvy leg and then just a straight leg like that. It's a nice little contrast. Now, you guys know me, you know I love the slant, but actually, if you'll notice, like, this is actually pretty straight up and down, and when that is straight, it and then you draw the second leg, it does kind of give it more of a slanted figure. If you kind of draw it where it's too slanted like that, then it almost seems like the X is leaning a little too far over. So for once, I'm going to recommend that you do part of that straight up and down. But definitely this second straight leg of the X, I do want you to maintain that slant. So hopefully I'm making sense, guys. I know sometimes it just seems like I'm blabbing. But let's try a few more. What do you think? Do you guys like this letter? Am I just the only one that likes the contrast of the curve with the straight? All right, 2 more letters. Y and Z. There's our Y. Just like with the letter X, the Y looks pretty much identical to its lowercase version. I actually didn't even draw any lowercase x's, but you know, I could. And again, if you wanted to practice the uppercase with the lowercase, great. Okay. So with the uppercase Y, just like we've seen in all these other letters so far, we've got that sort of overhand first component back up, like almost like a U or a V, but we're going to go beyond the baseline. I really need to pay a little bit more attention so I'm not making the mistakes here. So these are some mistakes I don't want you guys to do. If possible, try not to go beyond like any lines below the baseline. I mean, I know you guys are probably practicing on unlined paper, but you know, try to keep it not so big on the bottom. Sorry, I'm trying to find the right words. Okay, let's try again. Okay, we also don't want to see a big gap, something like, you know, I mean, that's not huge, I guess, but again, try to keep it tight if possible. How are you guys doing? Hopefully you're finding these letters fairly simple. Last but not least is uppercase Z. So the uppercase Z kind of starts at the midline. Midline up to the top line, and then down to the bottom line like this. Now, I have seen some variations like this. I think generally you kind of want to find an in-between. I feel like these might be a little bit too big and stretched out, whereas this seems kind of imbalanced. So, you know, try to find something in the middle. Oh, definitely not that. That's probably where I would keep my Z's. So I'm starting at the midline, just go maybe halfway up, touch the base, come back up like that. Notice how, oh, I keep making that loop. You can make that loop. I've seen that before. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just try not to if I can help it for that. But again, I don't think there's anything wrong. All right, let's try some words. So you, maybe we'll try up. So I'm going to write it just a little bit to the right here. So the letter P attaches nicely because they both connect at the bottom or at the baseline. Okay, V. Maybe we want to write the word violet, or maybe that's a name of somebody you know. Now notice here that I didn't connect them, but you certainly can. The only problem is you do have to dip a little bit below the midline just so you have enough room to scoop up enough to show that you have a little bit of a changed eye there, right? The only thing that I wouldn't recommend is connecting a letter with something from the something that starts at the bottom line. Let's say you wanted to write the word vase or something, where you're trying to connect an uppercase V with a lowercase a. I wouldn't recommend, you know, doing this. That's because then some people might think you're writing the uppercase U and just, you know, cut it up or modified it some. So I think when in doubt, you know, separate them just like we see over here. Okay, W. Maybe the word war, like war and peace. I'm really not sure where I'm getting these words, guys. So forgive me for some poor word choices. Okay, again, I kind of kept them separate. Whenever a letter ends at the top, but then the next letter starts at the bottom, I try to just keep them separate because I want to make sure that people can distinguish, um, between the letters. Again, we could try to connect them, in which case I might try to make this leg of the W a little bit smaller. But again, I feel like that could be misconstrued as a U with, I don't know, an I or something. So I try not to connect them unless I absolutely have to. For X, X is interesting because for the X, you can actually connect them, but of course, you want to just connect the entire word. So I'm writing the word Xerox, which has two X's, and then finish your X's like that. If you remember from our lowercase x video, we talked about how for letters like I and T and X, you don't want to dot your I's or cross your T's or, finish your X's until you finish writing out the word. So there's X. Maybe if you want to write X-ray, right, you can write it like so and then do that. Though generally, I think people are just going to put the dash there, so it's going to end up being separate anyway. All right, two more. Y, maybe we want to say you or yours. Let's do yours. Right, maybe yours truly or something like that. So these are fairly simple to connect because it ends at the baseline. And then Z. Maybe you know somebody named Zoe. Or Zach, maybe. All right. How are you guys doing? Practice these. I know these are a little bit stranger than the others. If you're noticing, I kind of group these letters together, not just because they're in order, but they've got some similar patterns with the pens and all that stuff. So practice them. Let me know which letters you love to write from this video, and I will see you for video 9.